Topic of skincare and skin cancer is, in my opinion, very interesting and very misunderstood. Most of us have been told and instructed for decades to avoid the sun as much as possible, to avoid sun exposure, to minimize sun exposure, that the sun is harmful and deadly and damaging to our skin and can cause skin cancer. Most of us have been told to clothe ourselves as much as possible when out in the sun, to wear hats, and to use sunscreen when out in the sun. Um, so I have a family history of skin cancer. Both my parents have had skin cancer issues for the past several decades, since they were in their mid 30s, I would say, and have been going to dermatologists once or twice a year since then, and getting skin cancers removed, cut off, burned off, surgically removed, and so forth. Um, my sister, also, who's 2 years younger than me, has been going to the dermatologist to get skin cancers removed for the past, I'd say, about 4 or 5 years, surgically burned off, and so forth. Um, I have not had the same fate. So I'm 49. I've been going to a dermatologist for probably about the past 5 or 6 years, getting an annual skin checkup where they check my skin from head to toe, and there have been I haven't had any skin cancers. Nothing has been removed. Nothing has been cut off, burnt off, at all. So what's the difference between me and between my parents and my sister, who have all had skin cancer issues, whereas I haven't? It's not our skin type. I mean, all of us were of East European, North European, Scandinavian heritage. So we all have very fair skin, very pale skin, that has burnt quite easily, and myself included, when I was a kid, growing up as a teenager, in my 20s and 30s, my skin would also burn very quickly when I was exposed to the sun, just like what would happen to my parents or my sister. It would be very painful. My skin would turn very red, would blister, would peel, and then the burn would go away after a couple of days, and my skin would return to its previous pale white color. Um, Now, for the past several years, I've been deliberately getting as much sun exposure as possible. Not as much as I would like, because I work full time, and so don't have really the time during the week to be out in the sun. But I do go on hikes every morning with my shirt off and with shorts, to get that morning sun exposure. And on the weekends, I will lay out in my backyard at the pool, for an hour or two or so to get sun exposure. And what's interesting is, whereas my whole life, when I was a kid, my teens, 20s, 30s, and early 40s, I would always burn when exposed to the sun, when in the sun. And the past few years, when I've been seeking deliberate sun exposure, my skin no longer burns. And I've been out in the sun, in very hot places in the desert. I live in Las Vegas, in Nevada, in the desert in Las Vegas. So it gets very hot here. There's a lot of sunshine, and I've been in the sun for hours at a time, and I do not get severe burns. Of course, if I'm out too long without getting my skin used to the sun, then I might get a slight burn, but it turns into tan, and I'm able to build a tan for the first time in my life, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, close to the beach. Most of the kids had really nice tans, and I wasn't able to get any color, so I felt kind of like an outcast. But now I'm able to get color, to get tan. I have tan lines, and the sun, as opposed to how it felt my whole life, where it felt damaging and harmful and burning, now the sun feels healing, and it feels nurturing, and it just feels good. It feels good to be in the sun when I'm in the sun and afterwards. And I think that's probably the effects of getting in that vitamin D. So how am I able to tan now? And how have I been able to avoid skin cancer? Whereas my parents and my sister have had to avoid the sun. They're not able to tan, and they all have had skin cancer issues for quite some time. So the main difference between myself and my family members is diet. So my parents have been on a standard American diet pretty much forever. For the past several decades, I'd say since their 30s, they were told by doctors because of fears of cholesterol to avoid red meat, avoid butter, dairy, saturated fat, eggs. So they cut most of that out of their diets and were eating a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of grains, a lot of vegetables, a lot of vegetable oils, which is not optimal for skin health, obviously. My sister was on a standard American diet before going vegan about, I want to say about 15 years ago or so. So she also has been eating high carbohydrate, a lot of sugar, a lot of seed oils, and also very little animal fat and protein, animal protein, saturated fats. And I, about 10 years ago, switched from a kind of a Mediterranean diet, um, largely plant based, though I did eat a little bit of chicken and a little bit of fish. But yeah, I also avoided red meat and avoided most dairy and avoided butter and things of that nature. So about 10 years ago, I switched from being on a Mediterranean diet to a paleo diet and did that for about 4 years. Did a keto diet for about a year. And in the past 4 years, I've been on a strict high fat carnivore diet. So the reason why I'm able to tan, to get color, and to not have had any incidents of skin cancer up till now, even though I have skin cancer genes, and I should be in the same boat as my sister and my parents, is because I cut out all the carbohydrates, all the processed grains, all the seed oils, beans and legumes, all these inflammatory um, foods which are not good for skin health. And I focused mainly on consuming fatty red meat, so beef and some lamb. And in my opinion, it's those animal fats, those healthy saturated animal fats, unprocessed fats that humans have been eating and thriving off of for millions of years, which supports skin health and deters chronic health conditions, including cancer. And really, what it comes down to, and what's the root cause and the reason for pretty much every chronic and metabolic disease, including autoimmune conditions, inflammatory conditions, cancers, cardiovascular conditions. So the root cause of all these chronic health conditions are malnourishment and inflammation of our various organ systems. And this includes our skin. Our skin is one of our organs. If I'm not mistaken, it's the largest organ in the body. And we can also have, because of poor diet, inflamed and malnourished skin. And in that case, the skin doesn't function as it's supposed to. It doesn't protect us from things like sun exposure, and makes us susceptible to developing cancers and other problems. Other skin problems as well, like eczema, psoriasis, and rashes and things of that nature. So when the skin is nourished, is being fueled properly, is not being inflamed through inflammatory foods, the skin is healthy, it functions optimally, and we're able to be out in the sun, getting our vitamin D and feeling great, and without it causing any health issues. And that makes sense evolutionarily also. I mean, humans have been outside in the sun every day, all day long for millions of years. It really wasn't until the past few thousand years where we started being indoors more frequently throughout the day. We started wearing more clothing, covering more of our skin. And I don't think that there was probably a huge crisis or problem with skin cancer amongst humans 100,000 years ago or a million years ago. My guess would be that humans didn't suffer from skin cancer a million years ago, as well as other chronic metabolic issues, which barely existed up until about 100 or 50 years ago. So that's really the point I want to drive home is when we're fueling and nourishing our body properly and our different organ systems properly, and we're not inflaming our body and our different organ systems, they're able to heal and return to optimal functioning. Even in a case like mine where we'd been damaging and inflaming those organs like I'd been doing to my skin for the first few decades of my life. And I suffered as a result from chronic and severe sunburns, blisters, and so forth. Now, through changing my diet and finally nourishing and fueling my body and my skin properly and not inflaming it, my skin has been able to heal, and now it functions extremely well. I'm able to be out in the sun for long periods of times. It feels great to be in the sun, and I don't have any health issues and no skin cancers. So I think this further drives home the point that that eating a carnivore or almost carnivore diet is the best way of eating for humans. Certainly, the best and most optimal way is to be high fat, fully carnivore, eating no plants. But being mainly animal based and with a little bit of plants, maybe a little bit of fruit and some vegetables, is pretty good as well. But if you're looking to optimize your health and optimize your functioning, really high fat carnivore is the way to go.